Whatever. Regardless, Jordan Brown, one of the best bigs in the country, averaged 19 and almost 9 rebounds per game last year, over 1 block per game over the last several years. Really one of the best players left available as far as a transfer goes. And obviously, as I mentioned, someone that Memphis has been connected to, along with, trying to get DeAndre Williams back. The prospect of what this front court could look like, best case scenario could look like, is really, really on the move. Because if Memphis were to land Jordan Brown, get a waiver for DeAndre, and be eligible, and have Nick Jourdain as their 3, primary front court players, by far and away the best front court in the American. Not even up for conversation.
I'd have to say,
it'd have to be up there for one of the best in the country.
100%. And where would that put you nationally if you had? Say you're starting DeAndre and Jordan Brown in your front court.
So last week in Tigers Untapped,
Caleb Mills, probably your lead guard.
There's they call him the sausage maker, and I can't remember his name, Bart something. He has a program, an algorithm where you can add players to a roster and to see where it stands. That roster, when you add players to it, where it stands nationally. They added Jordan and DeAndre to it, and it put them at 13th in the country.
See, that's what I was going to say. Where would it put them nationally? I was going to say top 20, just off the spitballing.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at what a potential starting lineup could be, though, for this team, Caleb Mills, TFAL, David Jones, DeAndre, and Jordan Brown. And then you have a really solid backup point guard in Jalen Young. You've got an extremely, extremely high-level backup front court guy, Nick Jourdain.
We'll see what happens with Mikey.
See what happened with the
let's just leave him out.
Just the freshmen in general. We're not going to project too much there. But then you got Jonathan Pierre, who so much potential. Could he come in and struggle? Yes. Could he come in and be incredible? Absolutely. He has that kind of potential. So when you think about that roster and what it looks like, not only is it extremely talented, it's deep. And it's deep at positions that you need to have depth at. Think about that front court with DeAndre and Jordan Brown. Last year, they combined for 37, almost 38 points and almost 18 rebounds per game.
That'd be crazy.
19 and almost 9.
And I feel like Jordan Brown taking the opposing team's big consistently would really keep DeAndre hopefully out of foul trouble as well.
Yeah. And having that big 6'11", 230 presence that can play the 5 and let DeAndre truly play the 4.
You're never really going to have issues rebounding ever again, really. Last year we were dealing with KO and Chandler Lawson in the starting lineup, and you always had issues against bigger teams with their big, first of all, but rebounding. You would not have that issue. But let me ask you this. What are the realistic chances they land Jordan Brown? Because they're not the only ones in that sweepstakes. They're not the only ones going and trying to make that happen.
No, I mean, there is a realistic chance.
No, for sure they're involved. I'm not saying, but there's other teams that are certainly going to be involved.
Of course.
And Jordan Brown, probably in his final year of eligibility, wants to be one of the main guys on whatever team he goes to. And
Jordan Brown, if you just look at the roster and how it's constructed, Jordan Brown could be the leading scorer for Memphis if he came here.
Even with DeAndre on the team.
With DeAndre.
Okay.
Even with DeAndre, because I think teams struggle more guarding the 5 than the 4.
Yeah.
And I think I can agree with that. That's where we saw DeAndre win.
Where you have a lot of athletic 5. If you have an athletic 5 that has some offensive ability, that's really hard to
because at 6'11", 230, he's one of the biggest true big. A lot of these teams get big footer bodies,
especially in the conference.
Right. A lot of teams get big 7-footer bodies that aren't good, but he's 6'11", 230, and he is extremely good and can score 19 points. Per game.
He'd be the best big in the new AAC.
Yeah,
he'd only be competing with Vlad Golden. He's still at FAU.
I think so. Yeah,
that's the only person he'd really be competing with. It feels like.
And I wasn't overly impressed.
He's fine.
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine. But
he's a footer.
Yeah, he's a footer.
Gets bored, sets screens.
Yeah. So I just top to bottom at that point, if that is Memphis's starting 5 next year, I think they're the best team in the conference.
Yeah,
but
I'd say so. FAU,
you're gonna have people say FAU.
You still have to give. Listen, you still have to give FAU their props. But I think even if you just had DeAndre in there, and no Jordan Brown. Well, I think you can still split a season series with FAU.
Yes, absolutely.
Like FAU, I really appreciate, and they had under 5 losses last year, but they're not overly big, and there's some things you can do to bother them. If you run them off the 3-point line and make them uncomfortable from closing out and sort of limit their jump shooting ability, you can beat them. You really can. And they only lost by 1. I understand it was Kendrick Davis and DeAndre, but they only lost by 1 to that team. Yeah. And there were some bad calls down the stretch that should have flipped that into Memphis's favor.
Yeah. But, I mean, the thing is about it, FAU is a guard-oriented team, no doubt. Everyone knows that. Jonell Davis and Elijah Martin, like that's their 2 best players by far. FAU has the best backcourt in the conference, no doubt.
I mean, arguably from an experience and production standpoint, one of the best in the country. But
yes, I mean,
so 100%. It's hard to.
But the thing is they would not have answers for the front court of Memphis if they have DeAndre Williams and Jordan Brown. And I don't think any teams in the American would have an answer for that. And you even mentioned DeAndre getting into foul trouble, which we saw snake bite Memphis multiple times last year. But now you have a guy in Nick Jourdain who can really alleviate that. If DeAndre's in early foul trouble, he's a guy that they would trust to turn to in that situation wherein they didn't have that last year. A guy that they felt that they could put in for DeAndre, not really lose anything. But if you take DeAndre out, you put Nick Jourdain in with Jordan Brown, you're losing some because DeAndre is incredible, but you still have a big that can score in Jordan Brown and then a solid big man also in Nick Jourdain. So I know this is a dream front court. I know we're obviously projecting in best case scenario, but
it's not that far out of the realm of possibilities.
No, it's a possibility.
It's there.
Yeah. It is. It's the best case scenario, but it is a possibility. And if Penny Hardaway and the staff are able to put that together, like strap the rocket ship to the back, like this team is going up quickly.
I love how you're talking about the offense too, with that starting 5. The defense and the length and the versatility there would be so ridiculous.
Absurd.
The switchability on the perimeter. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, it's all around that team.
He said 13 based on that algorithm. Who was that from, by the way, Kenny, again? One more time.
We call him the sausage maker over at Tigers on Tap, but it's like Bart something, and he just got a kind of an interesting last name. I have a hard time pronouncing it.
But 13, if you had all those requisite pieces, I don't see why the hell not, and all that experience too.
Right.